Well, I'm with Gary Schafer, who at one moment in time was the vice president of the existing customer group. You have to explain to me, Gary, someday what a non-existent customer is, though. I never understood the existing versus non-existing. But question for you that want to hear. You have a great story that I know because I was personally involved in it, that a lesson from the plane. So go ahead, take it away, Gary.
No problem. Thanks, Ed. Well, thank you, Ed, for the introduction. And I don't know what a non-existing customer is because part of my job leading the existing customer group was to make sure that we didn't lose customers as we actually built the business. So long ago at Great Plains, we were transitioning from just a DOS-based financial system into several different platforms. And one of them was in the Unix side of the world. And we had basically transitioned to a server-based solution within the Unix platform that we weren't as expert at supporting as we were on the DOS side of the world. So we had people that were expert at Windows, the Macintosh and Apple environment, and we had done some good work on the Unix side of the world, and Sun was the system that we were really transitioning to at the time. Importing financial systems and things over, and we had a large customer in New York. It ended up being your customer at the time, Ed, when we had you as a distributor of ours in New York, that had implemented a Sun system with the Great Plains financial system, and we were having all kinds of trouble getting the system working. Wasn't posting properly, wasn't creating all the temp files appropriately, those types of things. And as I mentioned, we have always had expert engineers at Great Plains, and we had these guys that really understood the financial systems very well. But on the operating system side, we weren't as expert in the Unix arena, and so didn't understand all the troubleshooting techniques and things that we had to do there. So to make a long story short, and it is a rather long story, a fairly large company, a multi-billion-dollar insurance company, I think it was $1.5 billion at the time, insurance underwriting company. We had several meetings, but one that's very memorable is sitting in the boardroom across from their VP of IT and their Vice President of Business Development, I think sales at the time is what they called him, and their COO was in the room as well. And your team and my team that had run the Level 2 support group had done the analysis and really came back with a recommendation about how we should move forward to get the system moving. And the recommendation was to convert them all to Windows at the time. And they had just decided to move off of the Microsoft platform onto the Sun Microsystems platform. And I had chosen to deliver that message with you sitting beside me across the table from their CTO that had chosen Sun Microsystems. And again, large company. Sun is a fine company and had built very high-end, kind of medium to high-end systems. It was a couple scary moments in this scenario because our CEO was best friends with the CEO of Sun Microsystems. Matter of fact, I think they'd been best men in each other's weddings. I knew that the recommendation would go over incredibly well with our CEO at the time. But the best option we had, and this was even working with our engineering group, they said, hey, the best option to make this work is to get them onto a platform we're comfortable with, and that would be Windows. And so as I'm mouthing this across the table, for a moment, saw my life pass between my eyes because their CTO nearly came across the table to take me apart. The good news is that their COO stopped him. And then we proceeded to talk about how we would actually transition all their data, guarantee that it'll make it from the Sun Microsystems solution over to the Windows environment. And then that was about a third of the job done because I had to get on the phone the next day with my CEO and Scott McNeely from Sun Microsystems and explain how we're transitioning off of their system and the recommendation that we probably don't invest a lot into the future into that environment simply because we didn't understand how to really do it properly. So I will say that it was a life-changing experience for me. I had a very good relationship with Doug, who was our CEO at the time. It was a pretty high-stress situation, a multi-billion-dollar company that had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this system. Working with a friend of ours that was a very good company. We just didn't understand how to do it properly. And so the recommendation was that we just transition off of that and probably in the future spend most of our time in the Windows, Macintosh, DOS world where we really have the expertise. So to my surprise, actually, and you can imagine sweating bullets talking to your CEO that way, but to my surprise, Doug 100% supported me on the call. We talked through it. Scott was massively supportive as well, which is probably the reason why they're successful CEOs. But right after that call, Doug called me immediately just to talk through the scenario, the analysis, how we actually got to that point. And I'll tell you, it was a massively supportive experience for me, and has formed the way that I manage and treat and work with team members from that point going forward, because there's a couple ways you can react to that, and one of them is to be supportive and support the team, and Doug did a good job of that. So I will say that was a life-changing experience for me, and certainly a piece of management history and experience that I'll never forget. And you won't either, Ed.
No, I will not. I will not. Thanks, Gary. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll end it there. Is there anything else you want to share? Is there another one that you have that you want to?
There's none better than that. I mean, there's one. There are several where we forgot to print checks in AP when we released Dynamics originally, and so we had to go out and actually
forgot
manually print people's checks for them. Some big companies where you're sitting there for all day trying to do it. There's a couple other ones where, especially with the level 2 support team, where data wasn't matching up, and we had a brand new Windows system, so we were missing data here and there now and then. But there's one specific example in Seattle where I extended my stay for 2 weeks because we just couldn't figure out why the data was missing, and then we figured out that the CFO was actually lifting dollars, and I was quickly asked to leave, and they took care of the problem themselves after we identified why there was transactions actually missing, because he was laundering money, which wasn't
he was
very
actually
good.
Deleting the transactions. That's why they were missing.
Yes. Well, they stop right here. Really? Yes, they stop right here. Very interesting.
Interesting. Oh, wow. That's well, I remember one of mine was Dodger Productions, which was almost the exact opposite story, because they were thrilled that it was accounting running on a Macintosh and really didn't care that it took an hour to print a single check. One check. They're like, but it's accounting running on a Mac. It's okay. We love it. It's all right.
That was a fun company, by the way. I remember Dodger Productions, actually. That was pretty good. Yeah. It's fun to reminisce, Ed.
Yeah,
good stuff.
I
used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. You could come on down. All right, I'm gonna turn us off here.